Good morning, church. It's so good to be with you this morning. Why don't you go ahead and stand up with us, and we're going to begin worship through song.
We bring
announcements.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Oh, thank you. My name is Miranda. We are so glad you all are with us today, whether you're on site or online. Thank you for being here. We would love the opportunity to connect with you. So whether it's your first Sunday here, or maybe you're ready to take your next step here at the church or in your faith, we invite you to stop by the Next Steps area out in the foyer today before you leave. Or if you're on site, you can also scan that QR code that's on the seat back in front of you. And if you're joining us online, you can click the Next Step link on our website. We would really love to come alongside you, meet you, and just journey with you here at the church. So please do that. Another way we love to connect is through prayer. Each week, the staff intentionally prays over the requests that you have submitted. So please keep doing that. You can fill out one of the prayer request cards that are located at the drop boxes along the building. So just fill that out and drop it in. You can also submit those online, as well as any tithes and offerings. And additionally, we're talking about connecting. We have some really awesome opportunities coming up the next month here, from Easter Jam to Growth Track and many, many more. We would love for you to sign up, check those out so that we can get to know you even more. You can get involved at the church, and we can just continue connecting and knowing each other. You can find all this information online at refinerychurch.cc/news. You can also make sure you get the weekly letter that comes out, usually from Pastor Landon, and it lists everything that's going on there too. So we want to make sure that you stay in the loop and know what's going on around church. Again, we're so glad that you're here. Let's stand and continue to worship.
Worthy of every song we could ever sing, worthy of all the praise we could ever bring, worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. Jesus, the name above every other name. Jesus, the only one who could ever save. Worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. Holy, there is no one like you. There is none beside you. Open up my eyes in wonder and show me who you are, and fill me with your heart and lead me in your love to those around. Worthy of every song we could ever sing, worthy of all the praise we could ever bring, worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. Jesus, the name above every other name. Jesus, the only one who could ever save. Worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. Holy, there is no one like you. There is
Heavenly Father, we just thank you so much for the time that we've had. We've got to come and sing to you and to worship you. And we just thank you for the freedoms that we have, that we can come and worship you all together. And let us never take that for granted. We just pray that as Mike comes to speak, that you would just speak through him and that you would open up our ears to listen and to hear what you would have him say. And that we would leave this place changed, and that we would go out into the world and be people of love and be people who serve and follow after you. It's in your name we pray. Amen.
We are all living in the same world, but we do not all have the same experiences. We have all been afforded gifts, graces, and opportunities, but we have not all been afforded them in equal measure. Yet regardless of the lane we're to run in this race of life, or the part we're to play in the grand story that is being told, great things start with someone showing up to take their mark.
Well, good morning, all. Good morning. Good to see everyone. I said in the first service, I'll say it here too, for those of you who traveled long and far to see Pastor Landon, my sincerest apologies. He is in with the kids today, pouring himself for a week into their lives, and hopefully they're going to give him a hard time, but that'll be good. But so maybe I could just say, like Landon does every week, hi, y'all. Hi, y'all. I don't know where that boundary, the southern boundary is to move into the y'all thing. But no, I appreciate the opportunity to share with you this morning. So I was actually thinking about some things. So, I was thinking about like these last 2 years, everything that kind of happened with COVID, and like how quickly those 2 years have gone by. Like, doesn't it seem like just yesterday it was like, shut everything down for 15 days to curb the spread or whatever. I mean, it's like that was yesterday, and here we are 2 years later. And one of the things that I noticed that during this 2-year period, one of a couple of things happened. Either people during all of this shutdown really worked out, got in shape, and just kind of changed their outlook, or they went the other direction, and where they gained weight, and I was in that category where I added the COVID pounds, right? And then with the holidays, this past year, as you kind of come into a new year, you're kind of thinking about those kind of things, and so I was thinking about dieting and trying to find a way to make there be less of me. and so I had a friend who, it was obvious he was having the same challenges, and so we started talking about doing this diet together. And I said that, if we kind of do it together and support each other, I think that'll help us. And I said, so like when I get the urge and I'm ready to run out for a greasy double cheeseburger and fries, I'm just going to simply call you. And he said, that's great. I can ride with you. It's hard, though, isn't it? It's hard, and there's all kinds of diets out there. There's the South Beach diet. There's the Atkins diet. There's the keto diet, and just a ton of them, and that none of them work, or there would only be one of them, right? And so one of the things that I do, when I get up in the morning, I need to get my brain engaged. So if I wake up and just try to start reading or something like that, I'm still kind of in a fog. I need my brain to click in. So every morning, one of the parts of my routine is I actually play a few games of Words with Friends. And that kind of engages my brain, kind of gets me going, and then off I go with other things throughout the day. But in between those games, there's always commercials. And one of the commercials that keeps coming up on my phone, I don't know if that's a hint or what, but it's this diet pill that you take. All you do is you take it right before you go to bed, and people are losing like 50 pounds in 50 days. I'm like, how is that possible? How is that legal? And it's just tough. They don't work. However, in kind of researching and going through all of this, I finally actually found a diet that is 100% foolproof. It works. It's simple. I couldn't believe it. So I'd like to share it with you. So all you need to do is go fill up your car with gas, and you will not be able to afford groceries. Foolproof. 100%, right? So why do we do this? Why do we diet and all that? Well, I think realistically, we want to feel good about ourselves, right? We want to feel good about how we look, feel just in general, feel good about ourselves. But actually, I think it speaks to a much deeper need in our lives. And, Jesus, when he knew he was going away, going to the cross, and he was going to no longer be with his disciples, he was giving kind of his last discourse to them, kind of my going away speech, and this is kind of my last real time with you. And he wanted to leave them with a gift. And, I think about that. There's a lot of things that Jesus could have chose to leave with us, with his disciples. But he chose in John 14:27 to leave us with peace. He said, "My peace I leave with you." And so in English, there's like a bazillion words. Right? We have a word for everything. And so peace has a much narrower meaning for us. But in the Hebrew and Aramaic languages, there are very few words. So most of the words are much richer with meaning than they are in the English language, and no more true than with this. So when Jesus said, "My peace I leave with you," he was talking about a word that derived from a word that we'll all be familiar with called shalom. So in the Jewish tradition, the greeting, when you depart, you wish shalom. Well, that doesn't mean, hey, peace out, bro. Right? It is much deeper with meaning. That word shalom means not just, absence of strife in your life. It means I want you to be fulfilled. I want your life to have meaning. I want you to have joy. I want you to have the fullness of what life was meant to be. So when someone wishes shalom, when Jesus said to his disciples, hey, here's what I'm leaving for you, not just a little bit of peace, it's that all-encompassing. And in wishing that on his disciples, what I think Jesus was understood and was trying to get across is that shalom, I believe, is the true hunger of the human heart. When you kind of dial everything down to its basics, what every single one of us strive for, long for, live for, is to find this sense of shalom in our lives, where the meaning is there, the fulfillment is there, the peace is there, the joy is there, the sense of purpose is there. It is the longing of the human heart. And so this morning, I want to talk to you about finding your piece of the peace. And the way I want to approach it is I want to talk about three common mistakes, three mistakes that I think that we make that actually derail us, that prevent us from achieving or experiencing our piece of the peace. So mistake number one is this: I focus on what I do instead of who I am. I focus on what I do instead of who I am. The reality is we live in a get-her-done society. We've got agendas full of to-do lists and all the busyness of our lives and the things that we need to do. And the whole mindset in our society is we recognize the people who are the doers, the ones who get it done. And so it's very easy to fall into the trap of focusing on what I do to somehow bring fulfillment and joy into my life, and the reality is it can never do that. So let's, in your Bibles, turn to Mark chapter 12. So we've been obviously in the book of Mark through this series, but we're gonna be reading from Mark chapter 12, and you'll find your way to verse 38, or find it up on the screens. And so Jesus is teaching, and he says this. As he taught, Jesus said, "Watch out for the teachers of the law. They like to walk around in flowing robes and be greeted with respect in the marketplaces and have the most important seats in the synagogues and the places of honor at banquets. They devour widows' houses and for a show make lengthy prayers. These men will be punished most severely." And you see, in Jesus' day, the whole religious class had this external pride about what they did, not who they were. And in another place, Jesus, in talking about the Pharisees or the religious leaders of the days, he says they're like whitewashed tombs. You know, they look great on the outside. I mean, they play the part perfectly. You know, they go to church, go to Sunday school, do all that. In fact, the Pharisees had codified everything, like literally down to how many steps you could actually take on the Sabbath and not have sinned. And their whole lives were about following all these codified rules and doing it better than everyone else. And that's where they took their pride, because I keep the law perfectly and I can do all of these things, thinking that somehow there's an eternal scorecard up there that God's keeping. Good, good, good. And Jesus was saying, no, look, guys, you're missing this completely. You're a whitewashed tomb. It's not about what you do. It's about who you are. So, one of the greatest football coaches of all time was Paul Bear Bryant. Coached he's kind of the foundation of Alabama football. And he had a young coach who was going to go out on the recruiting trail for the first time. And so Bear Bryant sat down with him. He said, "Listen, you know, there's going to be a lot of recruits out there that have all kinds of accolades, but really you're gonna find that they all fall into one of three categories." He said, first of all, you're gonna go find this recruit. He's gonna look great, but he's gonna get hit, get knocked down, and he's done. And the young coach said, "Well, that's not who we want, right, coach?" And Bear Bryant said, "No, that's not who we want." And he said, secondly, though, you're going to get out there and you're going to find someone, and he gets hit, he gets knocked down, but he gets back up. And then he gets hit again and knocked down, and that's pretty much enough, and he's done. Coach said, "Well, that's not who we want either." And Bear Bryant said, "Correct." He said, "However, there's a third kind of person that you're going to see out there. That's the person, he gets hit, he gets knocked down. He gets back up. He gets hit, he gets knocked down. He gets hit, he gets knocked down. He just keeps getting back up. No matter how many times he gets hit and gets knocked down, he just keeps getting back up." And the young coach said, "That's who we want, right, coach?" And Bear Bryant said, "No, we want the kid who keeps knocking him down." Right? And that's who we revere, right? We revere the one who keeps knocking them down, right? The doer. But the reality is, there's fallacies in trying to find your fulfillment, find your shalom by what you do on the outside. So let's talk about a couple of those things. One of them is, when I'm trying to feel good about myself by what I do, there's always someone who does it better. And when that happens, that just erodes all of the good feelings I had about what I accomplished. So when I was many, many years ago, when I was a youth pastor, we would do an event. We did an event called it was a picture scavenger hunt. Now, we didn't have cell phones back in this day. Do you remember the cameras that had the Polaroid where the picture came out of the bottom? That's what we were dealing with. But we had one of the things that's kind of our bonus question at the end is if you could get your team's picture taken with someone who's famous, you got all kinds of bonus points. And so we went out, and we knew this was going to be a hard one, and no one was really going to be able to find someone famous in the little 2-hour period that we had. But and we figured people would have pictures of themselves with statues and stuff like that. But we got the idea, hey, let's go to the news station and see if we can find anyone there. And unbelievably, we pull up to the door to the news station just as the news anchor, the evening news anchors are coming in, I don't know, from dinner or whatever. And we explained what we're doing, and we needed to get a picture with someone that's famous and all of that. And so they took a picture with us. And we were so pumped. We were like, no one else is going to get with someone famous. They're going to just, this is awesome. And just the excitement. We couldn't wait till the scavenger hunt was over so that we could get back when everyone showed their pictures. And it was just like, this is going to be awesome. And so we get back, show our picture. We're all excited about it. And then one of the other teams showed their picture. And they had a picture of themselves on the actual news set of the competing station with the news anchor like they were delivering the news. It was unbelievable. And I was so dejected. But that's the reality. When you're depending on what you do to make you feel good about who you are, there's always going to be someone who does it better. The second is, how do I know when I've done enough? When is it that I've done enough good things that I measure up and I should feel good about things? And the reality is, not everyone's the one knocking them down. What if I fail at what I'm trying to do? What if I'm the one who's getting knocked down instead of the one who's knocking people down? Then what do I do? And what Jesus was getting at is that all of those things are external. What you do is external, and what's on the outside is not what matters. So, is what I'm saying, don't do good things? Don't try to accomplish things? I know someone's going to go home and say, the guy speaking at the church told us we didn't have to do anything. We could just sit around, do nothing. No, that's not it either. Of course you want to do as much as you can do. You want to do good things. But it's why and where do those things come from? If I'm doing the things I'm doing to somehow make myself feel better about myself, to somehow measure up, to somehow meet some sort of standard that God is going to accept and that people around me will think I'm great, that's where emptiness lies. But if it's flowing from who I really am, that's where what I do makes a difference in people's lives. So, when I'm feeling not so great about Mike, I have a special place that I go to. Maybe you have one of these actually. It's called my I Love Mike shrine. Do you have one of these? This is my favorite place. So when I'm feeling down and when I think, man, my life doesn't count, I'm not making a difference for everyone, I just go to my I Love Mike shrine. Like sometimes I'll pick a plaque up, I'll rub it on my face. And the other thing that I was thinking about is when my time is done and I pass on, I was thinking about the fight that's going to take place between my 3 kids as to who gets all the stuff in the I Love Mike shrine. Well, actually, that's not what's going to happen at all, is it? You know what's going to happen? All of that stuff is going to go in a box, and it's going to be dropped off at the closest Goodwill. And all of those things that I did won't matter one iota. You know what does matter? Who you were. How did you love? What kind of person were you? That's what's going to live on in my kids, not the things I did. What lives on is who you were and who you are. And that's what Jesus was trying to get across. What you do can never bring fulfillment in your life. Who you are is actually the foundation of having shalom in your life. So that's mistake number 1. Mistake number 2 is I focus on what I gain instead of what I give. Focus on what I gain instead of what I give. Hey, we live in a society where we revere the people who have it. Movie stars, athletes, the people that have the money, the people that have the things, the people that have the possessions. They're the ones that are on the society shows and the news. It's what our society is all about. You know, again, if you just pay attention to the news, this past week, the Cleveland Browns just signed a new quarterback for $233 million over the next 5 years. That's $250 million. That is mind-boggling. But that's what sells in our society. And in the face of that, let me share the next part of Scripture with you. So, still in the 12th chapter of Mark, beginning in verse 41. Jesus sat down opposite the place where the offerings were put and watched the crowd putting their money into the temple treasury. Many rich people threw in large amounts, but a poor widow came and put in 2 very small copper coins worth only a few cents. Calling his disciples to him, Jesus said, "Truly, I tell you, this poor widow has put more into the treasury than all the others. They all gave out of their wealth, but she, out of her poverty, put in everything, all she had to live on." Now, in the Gospel of Luke, this story, there's more context to the story. So than what we get here. So Jesus is in the middle of teaching. You know, he's just talked about the Pharisees and all of that, but he's doing stuff. I mean, he's focused in on his disciples and the crowd and speaking to them. And in Luke, it says that something got Jesus' attention, because in Luke, the context that it gives is, while Jesus was in the middle of doing all of this, something caused him to look up. And what caused Jesus to look up was this poor widow. And Jesus realized that's it. That's what it's all about. And it wasn't about what she gave. It wasn't about what everyone else was giving. It wasn't about how much these people were given versus these people. It was about the absolute attitude of her heart. And this idea that what I gain somehow can bring some measure of shalom or peace in my life will never work out. And really, the fallacy in thinking that what I gain can somehow make me feel good inside. There are actually several of them. One of them is I never have enough. I mean, the first few chapters of Ecclesiastes are about this whole phenomenon of all the different things that you can try to try to have this peace, this shalom inside, and that none of it works. Working too hard, getting riches, going for pleasure, none of it brings this internal peace. And so I think to myself, boy, I'd really love to have this new car. It is so cool. It's awesome. If I get this new car, when I get this new car, man, I'm going to feel so good. And we save up, we get the new car, and the leather smells nice, but it didn't change anything in my heart. Man, that's a lot of money to spend on something that didn't work, right? But it's the reality. I never have enough, because even when I get that car, wow, there's this one that does this. And we just constantly live in this idea that, here's the problem. What I gain, that stuff that I think is going to somehow create some sort of inner peace for me, what I'm trying to do is take something that is external and temporal, right? It's not going to last. I'm trying to take something that's eternal or external and temporal and fill a need that is internal and eternal. And it's oil and water. It does not mix. However, advertisers understand that need in your heart. So, most people are watching the NCAA tournament, and you'll be watching it later today. I just challenge you, watch the commercials that are on TV and watch how often a commercial speaks to your psychological and spiritual need with the product that they're offering. So lo and behold, that cell phone is going to bring you peace, love, and joy in your life, right? But just watch. That's the kind of needs that they're trying to address, because they know that's the hunger of your heart. And so we fall into this trap of doing that. Well, so let me ask this. How many of you, just by show of hands here, are fans or enjoy rap music or hip hop? Can I see your hands? You don't have to be afraid. It's not a trick. Okay, several. All right. So I'm actually not one of them. But I want to explain to you why I'm not. Okay? So first of all, when I listen to music, now I don't do this in public, but let's say I'm driving in my car. When I listen to music, I like to sing along. And in rap music, they talk too fast. Secondly, even though they're talking fast, I also can't understand the words. And thirdly, once I understand the words, I still don't understand what they're saying. And fourth, I have absolutely no cadence or no rhythm. Thus, it's awful tough to sing along. However, I'd like to tell you about a rap star who I might be a fan of. His name's Percy. You don't know him as Percy, but Percy Miller was born and raised in New Orleans. He was raised in the projects. When he was a very young adult, he inherited $10,000 from his grandfather. And Percy used that $10,000 to start a record company. You would know Percy as Master P, who in the late 90s, early 2000s made millions upon millions of dollars as a rap star, a record label owner. But that's not why I'm a fan of Master P. Now, this would be the one thing I like about rap. You get to have cool names, like Master M. I like that. But Master P didn't just get rich. He had a heart for the city that he grew up in. And when he looked at the city that he grew up in, he saw the amount of inner city children who were not getting educated, who were not getting fed. He noticed that the elderly in the community where he lived had to travel long, long ways to get to grocery stores. There weren't enough grocery stores to service the people of the inner city. And so he started pouring into his community. He started a youth basketball camp that was designed to help inner city youth, and he partnered with a grocery store to create places in the inner city where the elderly could come in and get their groceries all in one place. And he started a foundation that pours into inner city youth, and they're making sure that they're getting education and they're getting food. He's literally contributed millions upon millions of dollars to help his community. And here's what he said. In an interview, he said, "You measure success by what you're able to give, not what you have. That's why my life has grown and evolved. I'm more happy helping others than all the other things that I do." That's getting it. That's what Jesus saw the heart of the widow as being. So am I saying don't gain things and don't strive to get things? No, that's fine. And if God blesses you, awesome. The question is why? What's your why with what God has blessed you with? How are you gonna pour into giving to others? And I'm not just talking about money. That widow had no money. That meant nothing in terms of what that money was going to be able to accomplish. It's my time, it's my resources, it's simple everyday things. One of the things I love that our church does, that Landon just keeps moving forward, is every month we have some sort of ministry project where we can lean into, a food bank or where people are in need month after month, so that it creates that muscle memory of it's what I give, not what I gain. So let me tell you about the greatest gift I've ever given. So my dad was a World War II veteran. And, he enlisted just out of high school. And when he left, he had a girlfriend. And he thought the girlfriend was the one. And he had given the girlfriend his high school letter sweater, his letter and his sweater, thinking, going off to war, when I come back, we're going to all be together, everything will be great. I'm thankful that didn't happen, or I wouldn't be here. But when he came back, the girl was gone. No letter, no sweater. And obviously he went on with life, but as an adult, on several occasions, my dad would tell me the story about giving his letter sweater away. And so it was coming up on Christmas, and my dad was now 85 years old. And I'm like, what should I get for my dad for Christmas? And then I started thinking about that story, and I thought, wouldn't it be so cool if I could find his high school letter? And there were some challenges. So the biggest challenge was the high school that he went to had long since been closed down. And there was a new high school there. It actually had the same name, but it was just completely different. The old high school was long gone and buried. But I thought, I got to start somewhere. So I called the new high school that was there, and not new, it had been there for many years as well. And I got a hold of the vice principal. And I started explaining to the vice principal my dad's story and what I was trying to do. Is there some way I could find his high school letter? Maybe yours is close enough, or anything. And the principal's like, I don't know. He said that school's been gone, and we're completely different. And then just before we hung up, he said, wait a minute. I just thought of something. I think I might know someone who might be able to help you. And it was an elderly lady in the community who had been associated with the school system. And one thing led to another. Anyway, I was able to get a hold of her, again, explain what I was trying to accomplish and what I was trying to do. And she said, you're not going to believe this. She said, I have stored away boxes with old stuff from that school that's been closed for decades. And in that box, she was able to find not only my dad's high school letter, the pin that goes with it for being a 2-year letterman, and his original yearbook from his senior year. So, Christmas comes along, and I'm just excited because I'm able to find that. And so we put the letter into one of those little shadow boxes and everything. And it's the last present that my dad opens. And so when my dad opens the present and sees his high school letter, his jaw just drops. His eyes got as big as saucers and tears started welling up. And he said, Michael, this is my high school letter. How did you get that? I want to tell you, at that moment, you could have offered to put any number on a check to give to me to trade for that. And there's no number that you could put on a check that would replace what happened right there. And that's because what I give is the fuel for finding shalom or peace. Who I am is the foundation. What I give is the fuel. Mistake number 3. Mistake number 3 is I focus on where I'm going instead of where I am. I focus on where I'm going instead of where I am. I think I've told this before, but it's apropos. It fits perfectly. So Roxanne and I were on a road trip. And on the road trip, we're coming up to a town spelled Versailles. And Roxanne says, oh, look, we're coming up on Versailles. I said, well, actually, Roxanne, I think it's pronounced Versailles. French influence and French, the L's are silent, so I'm pretty sure it's pronounced Versailles. She said, no, I think it's called Versailles. And so we start going back and forth, and all of a sudden, we're in an argument. Or what's the name of this town? And so it gets so heated that as we get to the town, I just pull off the first exit, pull into the first place that I can find, walk through the door, walk up to the counter. The guy behind the counter says, can I help you? I said, yes. I said, I need you to speak very slowly and very plainly and tell me exactly where we are right now. The guy says, okay. Dairy Queen. And the point is, I've got to know where I am to have any inkling or idea of where I'm really going. And it won't be on the screen, but Jesus in the book of Matthew, it's part of the Sermon on the Mount. He's talking about this whole issue. And, he's talking about people that we worry about tomorrow, what we're going to eat, what we're going to drink, what we're going to wear, what tomorrow's going to bring. And then he says in Matthew 6:34, don't worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow will take care of itself. Worry about today. It has enough troubles of its own. And the reality is this is a tough one for us. Because if we're people of faith, there is a future, eternal, this is what I hope for aspect to my faith, right? One day when everything's said and done, I want to make it to heaven. And so there's always this looking forward. But in the midst of that, that's where Jesus is basically saying, and don't get me wrong, he's not saying don't have faith and don't have any forward looking in your life. But what he is saying is you can't just always be looking out there. There's something happening right now, right here, called today. And in fact, what Jesus, I think, wanted us to understand is that's actually where your opportunity is. Because you don't even know what's going to happen tomorrow. But we fall into kind of this, I'm focusing on tomorrow. When I get to tomorrow, then I'm going to feel great. Then I'm going to have peace. Then I'm going to have joy. Then everything's going to be as it should be. And we do it through our whole lives. When I just finally graduate from high school, then my life's going to be good. And when I just graduate from college, then things are going to be good. And when I finally get that girl to marry me, then I'm going to be happy. Then I'll have arrived. And when I get that new car, or when I can just get out of this cruddy job into the career that I really want, oh boy, I can't wait for that day. I'm going to be so happy. I'm going to be so fulfilled then. When I just get my child potty trained. Well, that one's probably okay to pass on. But what happens is, meanwhile, back at the ranch, today keeps happening, and we keep missing it. And one day we all of a sudden wake up, and my kids are grown, and my job's just about done. And I'm like, what happened? I missed it. And that's actually what Jesus was saying, was if all you're doing is looking at how it's going to be tomorrow, you're going to keep missing today. And today is what you need to worry about. Today is where your opportunity is. Today is where you're going to find joy. Today is where you're going to find peace. Today is where you're going to find fulfillment. Don't worry about tomorrow. Your opportunity is to experience that today. Because the reality is, what I do today is where I find the fruition of shalom. So let me talk to you about Colette. Colette was born with Down syndrome. And at her admission as a child, she had no social life. She was made fun of, and she was bullied. But instead of just thinking about, I wish I could get beyond all of that, she discovered when she was 4 years old that she loved to bake. And she would bake with her mom and found joy in the midst of that, of everything else that was going on. And in fact, as a teenager, loved baking so much that she took all kinds of baking classes. Again, no social life. She actually then had the opportunity to go to college. She went to Clemson University where she graduated, and as she graduated was so excited that she'd gotten her degree and was now out searching for a career. However, no one would hire her because of her disability. And in fact, she discovered in all of this that only about 17% of people with disabilities actually are able to get to work. And that really bothered her. But instead of saying, you know, when I can finally get that job, things are going to be great, she just decided that she would dig into the joy of today. And with her mom's help, named herself CEO of her own company, baking cookies. And called the company Colette's Cookies. Her name is Colette DeVito. And started baking cookies. And in 5 or 6 years since she started this company, she sold over $1 million of cookies. She started with just one employee, but today she employs 15 people, half of whom are people with disabilities. But she didn't just stop there. She started, with her profits, she started a foundation, a nonprofit that focuses on training, equipping, and teaching people with disabilities how to forge forward with a career. And that's how you find the fruition of peace and fulfillment in your life. It's not out there someday. Jesus wants you to experience it today. So I actually brought one of her cookies with me today. That's mean. Actually, when you leave this morning, I've got one of Colette's cookies for each of you. But I want you to do something with it. First of all, I want you to eat it. But as you do, I really want you to think about 3 things. First of all, what I want you to think about is that who you are is the foundation of having shalom and peace in your life. Second thought is I want you to think about the fact that what you give or how you give is the fuel that will create shalom in your life. And thirdly, I want you to think about today is your opportunity, and today is where you'll find the fruition of shalom in your life. And as you think about those 3 things, I think what you will discover is that you found the way to get your piece of the peace. God bless you. You are dismissed.